The season is insane. Sabalenka happy to skip events in 2026 and face sanctions. Aryna Sabalenka expects to skip events again this year rather than put her health at risk over the course of an insane season, even though she knows she is likely to be sanctioned by the WTA Tour for doing so, the world #1 said. Top players are obliged to compete in all 4 Grand Slams, 10 WTA 1000 tournaments and 6 WTA 500 events under WTA rules, with the punishment for missing them ranging from rankings points deductions to fines. In 2025, Sabalenka competed in just 3 WTA 500 events, Brisbane, Stuttgart and Berlin, making her one of a number of high-ranked players, including world #2 Iga Swiatek, to be docked ranking points. Asked if she would change her plans for 2026, the 4-time Grand Slam champion told reporters, "The season is definitely insane, and that's not good for all of us, as you see so many players getting injured. The rules are quite tricky with mandatory events, but I'm still skipping a couple of events in order to protect my body, because I struggled a lot last season," the Belarusian said after beating Sorana Cîrstea at the Brisbane International. "Even though the results were really consistent, some of the tournaments I had been playing completely sick, or I've been really exhausted from overplaying. This season, we will try to manage it a little bit better, even though they are going to fine me by the end of the season. But it's tricky to do that. You cannot skip 1000 events. It's really tricky, and I think that's insane what they do. I think they just follow their interests, but they're not focusing on protecting all of us." The men's and women's circuits have faced criticism due to their 11-month seasons, and both tours came under fresh scrutiny during the Asian swing, towards the end of last year, with injuries piling up. In September, the WTA told Reuters that athlete welfare is a top priority and that it had listened to views on the calendar, both through the Players' Council and their representatives on the WTA board, to improve the circuit structure in 2024 and boost compensation. The season is insane. Why Sabalenka is willing to skip tournaments, and what it means for tennis. From the outside, professional tennis looks like a dream life, jet-setting to glamorous cities, competing in front of thousands of adoring fans, and living off the glow of athletic excellence. Yet beneath that glitter, one of the sport's fiercest competitors, world #1 Aryna Sabalenka, has dropped a startling verdict on the modern tennis calendar. The season is insane. Reuters. Her words aren't just a soundbite. They're a blunt admission that the relentless pace of elite tennis is pushing athletes to the brink, and that even today's best are reconsidering how much sacrifice is too much. This is the story of one champion's response to an unforgiving schedule and what it might signal for the future of the sport. Beyond the rallies, the weight of the calendar. Imagine training for most of the year, peaking in physical condition, flying halfway across the world every week, then doing it all over again. Not just for glory, but because the rules say you must. That's the reality for top-ranked tennis players today. Under Women's Tennis Association, WTA, regulations, elite players are obligated to compete in all 4 Grand Slams, 10 WTA 1000 tournaments, 6 WTA 500 tournaments. These aren't optional cherry-picked events, they're mandatory stops on what has become something close to an 11-month season. Miss too many, and penalties can include fines and loss of ranking points, powerful incentives that push players into near-constant competition. Reuters. For Sabalenka, who has long pushed her limits in pursuit of titles and greatness, adhering strictly to this schedule has tangible costs. Playing through pain to protect the future. In late 2025, Sabalenka found herself competing while exhausted or sick, a situation no athlete wishes to be in, yet increasingly common as players chase both success and survival in the rankings. "Some of the tournaments I had been playing completely sick," she said, recounting her own experience of last season. "I've been really exhausted from overplaying." Reuters. Rather than grind through another year like that, she has made a bold choice, prohibited skip selected tournaments in 2026, even though she knows it will likely result in sanctions from the WTA. That's right, Sabalenka is ready to accept fines and potential ranking point deductions if it means safeguarding her health. To some observers, the very notion of picking and choosing which events to play might feel almost rebellious. But for her, it's a strategy rooted in longevity, performance quality, and well-being, values that can't be measured by prize money or ranking alone. Insane, not just a word. When Sabalenka describes the season as insane, she's not being dramatic. She's describing a reality many players quietly fret about, a season that leaves little room for rest, recovery, and the physical care needed to extend careers at the elite level. Business day. From bulging travel schedules to barely a breath between tournaments, the grind of pro tennis is unending. The sports leaders, the WTA and tournament organizers, face pressure to deliver more tennis to fans and more revenue to stakeholders. Yet, critics like Sabalenka argue this drive has outpaced concern for player welfare. "It's really tricky," she said. "You cannot skip 1,000 events. I think what they do is insane." Business day. These aren't vague complaints. They're rooted in a real tension between business realities and human limits. The human side of elite competition. Tennis isn't just about elite athletes hitting balls on center court. It's about bodies that need rest, joints that demand recovery, and minds that must recharge to compete at peak intensity. Burnout isn't just an abstract term, it's a lived experience many players face behind closed doors. Sabalenka's decision isn't purely strategic, it's personal. She knows her body. She knows what it feels like to push past exhaustion. And she's choosing to protect her ability to compete and to win in the long run. There's also a psychological dimension. When a player constantly battles fatigue and injuries, their performance can become inconsistent. The last few seasons showed glimpses of this with many players, not just Sabalenka, struggling with form due to the cumulative toll of the calendar. Her stance reflects a broader pushback against an era where always playing has become a measure of commitment. A broader conversation. More than one player, one issue. Sabalenka isn't alone in her critique. Other top players, men and women, have voiced similar worries about schedule intensity and the toll it takes. The tennis world has watched some of its most talented stars endure niggling injuries and forced withdrawals, sometimes in the middle of major tournaments. This disconnect between player welfare and tournament demands isn't new, but it's now surfacing in public comments and decisions that have real consequences. For example, some players have been fined or docked ranking points simply for not playing enough mandatory events, as happened to Sabalenka herself in 2025. Reuters. Others are considering selective scheduling as a strategy, even if it means accepting penalties. Reddit. It's a complex situation. The rules exist for fairness and consistency, yet they can sometimes conflict with the biological limits of elite athletes.